I'm Sita Director of External Affairs.
I'm Jamie Buck, Director of Innovation.
This is Fundamental, the podcast from NYSIF, the organization at the intersection of finance, health, business, and labor in New York.
All right, well, Tony, welcome. This afternoon, we have the pleasure of having Tony Liu, who's the co-founder and managing director of Insurtech NY, join us here. We haven't seen Tony since the fall, so it's a pleasure to have you back here with us today. Insurtech NY connects insurance carriers, brokers, investors, and insurtech startups in an ever-expanding insurtech ecosystem, and we're looking forward to a really robust conversation here this afternoon. So, Tony, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Jamie and Sita. Yeah, I'm glad to be back in this amazing building, NYSIF building. It's always good to come back here. I also like the neighborhood too, the Tribeca area. This is Tribeca, right?
This is Tribeca.
Yeah.
You're
so
good.
It's the hot place in the city.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to plug like the Frenchette Bakery across the street, but it's really fantastic.
Oh,
They
really?
have this pistachio croissant. It's like incredible, double stuffed. I'm not even giving it justice. That's
Okay.
incredible. So the next time you're around, we'll take you around Tribeca a little bit here.
Please,
and
I'd
show
love
you.
to,
But it's a
check it
pretty
out.
awesome neighborhood around us.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect field trip for us. So come back with slightly better weather for the next one, Tony, and we'll take Sita up on that. So
Tell our listeners, what is Insurtech NY, the organization that you lead?
Yeah, no, so Insurtech NY is an organization that myself and my business partner, David Gritz, we started this in 2019 when we saw that there wasn't much of a community in New York for those in the ecosystem to get connected. And so we started off by hosting small events, and now we have expanded quite a bit beyond that. And now we do, at a high level, 4 different things in the ecosystem. One of them is we still host events, including our big flagship conference called Insurtech Spring Conference. It's like 1,000-person conference over 2 days that we'll be hosting in a few weeks. End of March is when we'll have it. And the second thing we do is we have what we call a corporate innovation program, where we help mostly like bigger carriers and brokers like Tokyo Marine, Gallagher, Lockton, to help them get better at innovation. And we do this by helping them find startups that they could partner with or invest in. We also provide various education-related innovation to them. And then the third thing we do is we have an accelerator called MGA Lab, where we help create new MGA businesses with about 12 founders. And then finally, we have a venture capital fund, and we make investments in earlier stage startups. And these could be startups that we see in our community, but also outside our community as well.
as I mentioned, the last time we had the opportunity to connect with you was the fall 2025, last fall at our NYSIF Innovation Conference, and you just did a phenomenal job speaking with our team, talking a little bit about what's new in the space and trends and things that we should be thinking about, because you and your organization have such a pulse on the industry. So we wanted. It's been only 6 months ago since that time, but we wanted to talk with you, given how fast and quickly things move in the space. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an update in terms of significant changes that you've seen in the past 6 months in the space.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been a few months, so I would say, things are just kind of progressing kind of continuously from where it's been, which is basically, what I mean to say is growing really fast. Things are moving really fast, as it has been past couple of years, especially in the AI front. So the big kind of the AI news, and it's not just insurance, right? But just overall AI world is agentic AI is become like a real practical like technology now. I think we talked about a little bit of that at the conference, but not as much.
We did, and you're right though. It's the agentic kind of discussion has certainly progressed quickly since that time.
Exactly. Now with the cloud and all these like Gen AI platforms now coming up with new ways to engage agentic AI technology. And so one way for us to kind of see what's happening trend-wise is through our startup applications in some of our programs. So the latest program that we launched is our startup competition. It's a competition for early stage startups. So it's a great way to see what are some of the new founders like creating, right? Like new ideas. And many of them are agentic related. And agentic for improving operations for agents like brokers and agents. Actually, that's a huge area. But then also a lot of like AI based brokers themselves. So they're leveraging AI to sell insurance directly. I mean, that was a big news, I think just a few weeks ago, when ChatGPT announced with TUI and Insurify, and like all the broker stocks went down by 15%, right? So that was a huge news too. So a lot happening on the agentic world. That's probably the biggest kind of news since the conference.
Super exciting. Yeah, and timing is everything, right? We're going to be looking forward to connecting with you and the teams and at your conference coming up at the end of this month. So that'll be really interesting and see some of those firms in real life. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, many of those agentic companies and other amazing startups will be there at the conference for sure. Yeah.
I want to come back to that, but one of the ways that we should have set the table here for our listeners thinking back on is Insurtech itself sounds very trendy. Can you explain to non-insurance people? That's part of what we're always trying to do here is make things accessible. Insure and tech, the words insurance and tech together, like what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, what is Insurtech? Also, this Insurtech is more like a class, asset class name, so insurance technology, right? And then typically when you say Insurtech, it's typically insurance-based, technology-based startups. So that's the term. Like fintech is another term that's kind of similar. And then we are Insurtech New York. We're like an ecosystem association type of community business that connects those in the ecosystem, including Insurtechs, and then obviously carriers, brokers, investors, and others. Yeah.
Tell us about this conference that's coming up. We're really excited about it. It's at the end of March. When this episode airs, it's going to be April, but I'd love to hear what you're really hoping to get out of it. You've got a big theme about humanity and insurance. And a lot of times when we're talking about Insurtech and technology, even here at NYSIF, we're serving actual people, injured workers, small business owners. They're still humans, despite all of the advances in technology. Humans here. We have over 2,000 employees that are doing real jobs, interacting with each other and with policyholders and injured workers. One of these themes are about humans and insurance. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. So, as you mentioned, there's, technology, AI, some are afraid that they're going to replace humans, right? And maybe it'll happen 100 years from now, but at the moment, the insurance industry is there to serve people and businesses who are run by people, right? And so, and then also it's served by people. And so we wanted to really highlight how technology really is there to augment and support people in the industry. Some of the people's roles might change, right? That is something we need to accept and try to understand how is it going to change, right? But it's not ultimately there to replace them anytime soon. And I say that definitively, it's not going to like completely change people's roles that much. And yes, there's some roles that might be kind of offshore in some sense, like that's been happening in the industry for decades. There are some offshore people have been offshore outside, but then sometimes they come back, right? And these things will happen with technology as well. Like some roles will move on to technology, but they might come back for different reasons.
So you've talked about, insurers really seem to be far behind the banking industry in adopting new technology. Why do you think that we're slower to adopt in the insurance industry as a whole? What have you seen? What have you heard? What do you understand with that? Every time you read a headline, you're thinking finance and banking. Everyone's doing AI. If you read any of the headlines in the last 6 months or click on that, or as people are starting to use it in your personal life. But talk about the insurance industry and why you think there was early adaptation, perhaps from banking or other industries, and where the insurance industry stands.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, there's probably a few different reasons, but probably the biggest reason is that insurance generates profits through premiums, and then they invest that money, and that's get the invest the float, right? And a lot of that decision making, underwriting, and maybe claims, right, is driven not by technology. It's more like a decision on what to underwrite versus like what not to, right? And they've been profitable doing that for hundreds of years. And so, and they're competing against other incumbent carriers who are doing the same thing. So there really wasn't like much of an urgency for them to change. because others weren't doing it either, right? And so things started changing when like Insurtech 1.0 kind of came out, like Lemonades of the world, and they came out and said, hey, we're going to like, disrupt the industry. We're gonna, put all of you NICEPs of the world like away because of our technology. And then actually a lot of carriers started to get a little anxious. But then they learned that actually Lemonade didn't disrupt them. They barely took much of the market share.
I don't even know who they are. Is that going to get me in trouble?
No, exactly. So yeah, so I mean that's kind of what happened. But essentially, like it's carriers are generating good profits, and so they don't really see a need to change. And I think that's probably the main reason they weren't changing so much. But I think this will change over time, the next decade or so, if not more, because there are other things that are changing where they have to change. So like the customer demographic is changing a lot. Like Gen Zs, millennials, they're going to be taking over the workforce and decision making for insurance purchases, right?
And they're buying things differently. We're even thinking about that, everything.
Yeah, and customer expectations are changing, I think, to your point too, right? What they want to see providers provide.
Exactly. So the customer expectation is changing because of demographic. And so if you're not, providing a good digital or easy purchasing kind of process or claims process, they may go to someone else who are providing that. And that's the other thing. The competitors are kind of getting up to speed now. So some of the bigger incumbents are putting a lot of investment in digitization and AI. I mean, you see like news from like Travelers, AIGs of the world. The CEOs come out and say we're gonna be like a full AI shop, and they're doing it. Like I've seen them do it, and so your competitors who weren't changing are changing, right? And so I think things are definitely going to change going forward. And then it's now easier than ever than before to leverage technology, AI, to be very much like a digital first type of a carrier or a broker. And so over the next 5 to 10 years, I think if you're an incumbent carrier, you have to really catch up.
One of the things I think we're so proud of here at NICEF is we do compete in the marketplace, but we are a state entity. And we're not providing, shareholder profits at the end of the day. It makes us feel really good. We do have a board of commissioners. We have a fund. It's important that we maintain a solvent fund, but we get to price and think about a lot of this differently, where the bottom line isn't profit, but the bottom line is people and how we're delivering our services. So I think that's one of the competitive edge we have against our competitors. However, we are aware we're an organization, Jamie, you and I talk about this. We're 111 years old now. And we still want to be here in another 100 years. So we're thinking about how do we adapt? How do we innovate while still centering people?
Yeah, exactly. And I think to that point, Sita and Tony, I think a logical kind of segue to the next question we were thinking about, it really kind of catches back up to the comments about, that concept of being a laggard and the banking industry taking a little bit faster than, right, for all the reasons you outlined. But I think one of the things that we experience in this insurance space, right, is that the outdated technology, right? So how do you work through that? And that's a pretty big barrier, right, in terms of capitalizing on some of the amazing technologies that are out there, right? You have a lot of legacy technology, technical debt. So how are you seeing insurers in the space kind of tackling that and making real significant change, not just kind of incremental one-offs, right, in really advancing their path from innovation and a technology improvement standpoint?
Yeah, so I mean, some of the, I guess, more forward-thinking carriers, when I see what they're doing, they're coming up with a strategy on how they can get up to speed, and it can be a 5-year road. I wouldn't plan something for 10 years in this day and age. It's just too long, right? But at least like 3 to 5 years and come out with, how you can get up to speed. I mean, it could be your core system is super behind and maybe you're like 10 years behind the latest version. So you need to figure out how you're going to get up to speed on that. And maybe you have to go through a, 3-year core system upgrade process, which it's a solution. That's one way. Or maybe you can kind of look at some of the more modular, infrastructure architecture. So you are not beholden to one core system, giant core system vendor that you're kind of like relying on. And so there's like architecture, technology architecture, roadmap planning that you have to do. And then you also have to figure out, hey, what are the areas that we are behind? And there might be many, and you prioritize them and figure out which are the areas we really want to modernize. And maybe it's your, claim, maybe it's your distribution or how you work with your brokers and agents. Many different areas, but like coming out with the prioritization and then figuring out, hey, what should we do? Should we do this ourselves? Like, do we have the engineers? Or should we work with an existing vendor that we have good relationships with already, right? Or maybe we can look at some of the new startups and see if we can get their help, right? So those are kind of the decisions you have to do.
Given that you've been one of the leading voices in shaping the conversation and in the industry for Insurtech, what is your hard-earned advice for tech startups seeking to pitch their expertise to potential insurers?
First thing I would say is they should really try to understand what are the key problems that carriers have, and then also see if there are solutions that are out there, and compare your idea to those solutions. Chances are, if it's a area that they have problems with, they might be already many solutions that are out there. And so it'll be just good to come up with a solution that differentiates you from them in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of what I would recommend to them. And try to talk to as many people as possible, whether that's carriers or partners and others.
Oh, that's some good advice.
Fundamental features guests who bring a different wealth of experience and expertise to the podcast.
We go further by exploring the fundamental principles that motivate each person to reveal who they are.
Now let's get to the heart of the matter, the fundamentals.
One of the things we'd like to do is talk with our guests about who they are, what they do, and what guides them. I really would love our guests to hear a little bit more about what's the fundamental principle that guides you.
Wow. So just kind of like thinking out loud here, I think one thing that, we share this internally with my team and also talking to David is we want to create a welcoming place, really literally for everyone who's interested in insurance and technology. And we do this by trying not to have favorite group of people or company that we cater to. We believe everybody is our favorite. And so we try to create a community where everybody can be kind and also feel like they can be partners with each other. And so that's kind of one principle we have. And that's why we don't really believe that we have competition, even though there could be other conferences that also host Insurtech conferences. We want them to come to our conference. We go to their conference, for example. Same thing with accelerators. There are also some other funds as well, but we really feel like there's room for everyone, and certainly room for everybody in insurance in New York. And so even though we're Insurtech New York, we really want everyone to feel welcome. And that's like one principle that we really have. And we encourage that to other carriers as well. And that's what I like about insurance industry is like, you talked about banking, and I kind of feel like banking people are a bit more meaner to each other. That's the sense I got. But but in the insurance world, people are, I feel like, just generally nicer to each other. Maybe there could be many different reasons why that's the case, but just they tend to be nicer to each other, and that's what what I like about one of the reasons I like about the insurance industry. Yeah.
Well, you've definitely created that culture, at least from our vantage point, and you can feel that your conferences do a phenomenal job, and I think it's in that spirit of that collective learning, right? And you have created that great sense of community. A lot of folks have been in the trenches and doing this work and trying to help each other. So I think you're on the right path for sure, Tony.
Listen, if I didn't make the plug that wouldn't it be nice if, I think nice if is nice. And I like to hear that, I find that we are very friendly in the insurance industry, even among competitors when you're thinking about it, because we do have that bottom line of being very people focused. And I'm never going to plug our competitors, but I am going to share about being people focused.
I think you tied that back though perfectly to what we talked about, and even the theme of Tony's conference, right? It all the foundation is the people, right?
It really is. Talk to us about who's been a mentor to you. How did they inform who you are and how you lead today?
Oh man. So I mean, just on the Insurtech New York front, there's been so many people who helped us get this business started. For example, like, if I had to pick a couple of people, like Stacy Brown, he's a founder of Insurtech Hartford, and he started his like community business a few years before us. And he was actually still an executive at AXA XL, and he was kind of doing it on the side, but he built a pretty great following and community. So like we when we first got started, he gave us a lot of like mentorship and guidance on how we could actually build our own business. There's another group called Insurtech London from London, right? So they're another association, and they have a different model. They have like a membership model, and they've been doing it before Insurtech was a word. That's why it's Insurtech London, not Insurtech London. And so Robin and Matt, who are the founders, they also gave us a lot of guidance on how they built their business. So like a lot of people feel like have been super helpful in like, giving us advice and what we could do. And we ended up building something that's different, but really helped us, gave us like confidence. Hey, we can do this. They've kind of done it, and they've shown us at least some path that you could take. And so that gave us a lot of confidence in the beginning. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tony. It has been such a pleasure to have you here with us. We are looking forward to the spring conference. We're also looking forward to continue to engage with you. I know you said you don't have favorites, but I could make the statement, or Jamie could, that of course NYSIF, I think, is one of your favorites. You've been very
Yes,
friendly with us.
That is true. There is one favorite. That's
There is
nice.
one favorite.
There's one favorite.
That is NYSIF. Tony, thank you again.
Tony, this is awesome. Thanks for hopping over to the podcast with us today. Appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. It was so much fun.
This is Fundamental, the podcast from NYSIF.